back to moderate the next segment, panel discussion with the team behind the BGBF-I Fund, Southeast Asia's first Bitcoin-denominated fund. You have with you the panelists, Dr. Menon, our co-founder of the fund, Mr. Ian Lim, representing Archipelago Group, our insurers, also Dato Choo, CEO and Managing Director, IBH Bank, Investment Bank, also our fund advisor, and Mr. Julian Lim, Managing Director of Alpha Calibration, our fund administrator.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone who is part of this whole journey. And it was not easy, but finally we managed to complete it, especially with the support of our compliance partners, insurance partners, banking partner, fund advisor, fund administrator. So yeah, finally we have reached this stage that, here it is, and we are launching in public right now. Okay, so on top of that, there is one more good news that before even our launch, we already started seeing the interest, and tremendous interest has been committed. And we have pretty much committed more than 50% of the BTC AUM as of now. And we are still having some of these discussions going on, which is very positive. So the total AUM of this fund is around 5,000 BTC. And we are currently sitting at a high level of interest with around 2,700 BTC. So that's actually a good news, because just before the launch itself, we are already completed 50%. On top of that, amazing. Thank you. So anyway, just to give you a background about myself, I've been into tech space for the last 20 over years. Used to work for multinational companies, then started tech companies, exited from few of them. And for the last 5 years, I've been focusing purely into blockchain. Primarily, our objective is to create a blockchain infrastructure and an ecosystem, which starts from exchanges all the way to funds, DeFi networks, and additional protocols, just to make sure that we have a self-sustainable ecosystem of blockchain available within the group. So that's about me. I will request Ian to take over from here.
Hey, thanks, Vin, and thanks, Vincent. Been with CGCX as an insurer, I think, Vin, since about 2018. And if you are looking at an exchange, you got to know the people inside. And we have interviewed, or we have considered many proposals of different exchanges, but we have not really secured others that we felt comfortable with. But CGCX definitely is an exchange that we have had this relationship since 2018. I mean, CGCX says that they are the first insured exchange. We were with them when they started the exchange. We insured their tokens, the assets, other tokens within CGCX, and we continued on that relationship up to now. I think that speaks volumes of our support towards CGCX. Now on the insurance side, my name is Ian. I represent the Archipelago Group as a group chief underwriter. The way that the policies that we have worked within, there are two policies here. One of them is a public offering securities insurance policy. In short, it's called a POSI. If you search on the internet, you type in POSI, everything comes out about POSI. I mean, this is what any exchange or any listing company who wants to be listed, they will buy a POSI policy in order to protect, let's say, the promoters related to the investments that they obtain. So in this instance, you have this Bitcoin Genesis Fund. You have promoters here, and the fund has a certain mandate. And if that mandate is followed, then investors enjoy the returns and the profits. How and when the policy becomes crucial for investors is that if the mandate is not followed and what monies have been put in, then it creates a liability amongst the promoters, the directors of the company, to the shareholders, or to the funds, or to the beneficiaries of people who have put money into the fund. So that's where a public offering securities insurance policy covers the aspect of investors who are investing into a fund. The next policy that we have been working with the exchange CGCX is on related to a professional indemnity, cyber risk liability. Being an institution, let's say an exchange is a financial institution, they have a duty of care in terms of maintaining those token assets to be very secure, and that those are not stolen or hacked into. So that's the purpose of the professional indemnity policy that CGCX has. So the CGCX policy, that is the first policy that I think that we have worked with CGCX. That's why they say that they are the first insured exchange on that basis. So that's a bit about my background, my relationship to CGCX, to Vin, to Subu. I have been working with them since 2018. We have gone through a lot of, I think, different challenges through the pandemic. But I think, like what Vincent has mentioned, this asset class is certainly interesting. You're looking at it, I mean, it can be as good as gold. It can be as good as silver. It's in that range. It's a digital asset. If investors are putting money into this, you still need to have a Bitcoin to invest in it, and you want to get an upside, and then you want to secure your downside by the price. So basically, I think that's a good way to put some working mechanics to the use of a Bitcoin. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Maybe Julian, may we jump to you, please?
Yes, so my name's Julian. I'll just give you an introduction about my own personal background. So I'm a lawyer by training. I've worked in finance for very many years since I've graduated. And I've always covered, the trading desks, trading businesses in investment banks. I was myself a COO of a hedge fund, which was a high frequency quantitative fund that way back 2013 was mining Bitcoin at the time. And about 2015, 2016, I set up Alpha Calibration, which is a financial services provider, and providing essentially compliance services, fund administration services, AML services, and so on to many different types of financial institutions, as well as those in the virtual asset space. So I actually advise quite a few exchanges, all the aspects of cryptocurrencies, that we've been discussing, relating to custody, relating to trust, security, insurance, all those things is what I've been working on. My firm is based in Hong Kong primarily, and in Hong Kong I help quite a few firms here apply for licenses in the financial space, and I've also been helping a lot of crypto startups get licensing as well. So there's a lot of regulatory interest in approving not just virtual asset fund managers, but also platforms, virtual asset platforms, and exchanges. And in terms of the fund, BGBF, we're primarily doing the fund administration, helping with the bookkeeping and the NAV calculations and so on. The really interesting thing, I think, with this fund is that, being Bitcoin denominated, the accounting rules don't actually aren't because we talked a little bit about how the regulations haven't really caught up with virtual assets as an asset class. The same with the accounting standards and accounting rules as well. One of the key challenges for any virtual asset fund today is how do you account for the assets, because it's not really recognized as a financial asset that can be traded in and out, that has a market value. So, providing decent accounting, providing decent valuations, which is respectful of the existing accounting rules, but which also reflects the trading nature of a fund, is something that we're working on at the moment, and I'm very happy to be helping the fund with that.
We are one of the several investment banks operating out of Labuan International Business Financial Center. This project of BCMG started about 3 months ago when Win brought up this idea, and then we worked quite vigorously to bring the idea to fruition. And of course, eventually, we want to thank BCMG for mandating IBH as the financial advisor and structuring agent for the fund. This is strictly a private equity fund. At the point of talking about this idea, Bitcoin was then only $15,000 US. And now, of course, it is more than 300%. So, that's testimony to the acceptance of Bitcoin. And as what you earlier mentioned about JP Morgan initially saying that they will fire anyone touching this this subject matter. Of course, our role in the financial advisory position is to ensure that there is good governance and compliance in all aspects when the fund is being launched. So I just want to congratulate Win and his team on tonight's event. Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, fellow entrepreneur, Vin, who's been on multiple journeys, I think it's really important when the point of success is reached, and you're there today with this wonderful launch. Talk about the beginnings. Did you wake up one day and just say, "Hey, this is something we need to do"? What was the inspiration? What was the embryonic thought, and how'd you get it here?
So basically, if I go back, since I was a kid, probably my first business, so-called entrepreneurship, started when I was 12 years old. So that's already there in the blood, and I was a first-generation businessman in my family. So of course, that's something which necessity pushed towards that. But overall, when I see the last 15, 20 years since I started independent business and exited from a couple of other initiatives, so there's always an opportunity, and it's up to you how you want to capture the opportunity, and also your background, your team, your people around you, your energy, that counts for it as well. There is nothing called, you have fulfilled your success or you have fulfilled your target. So this always it's just the beginning. Even for this today, it is just the beginning for us. We are looking at, BGBF-2 and 3 and, a much bigger world after this, right? So according to us and everyone in BCMG, I'm sure this is just the beginning.
Well, I love that. As I guess I would say, you're not at the finish line; you're at the new starting line.
That's right. That's right.
That continues to go. Keep coming back to that word innovation, and I think this innovation of what BGBF really is that collaborative team effort, not only from an internal standpoint, but an external standpoint that's really created this.
I strongly believe that, this project, particularly BTC denominated fund, is one of its kind. And I'm sure most of us never heard about it in the past. Then we were trying to create a scenario where how can it be more comfortable to institutions? Then how can we make sure that the investors, the capital is protected or comfort is created by wrapping it with insurance through our partners from Archipelago. So putting all these jigsaw puzzles together, So that's how we, it turns out to be like a new product, a very new innovative product, and it never happened in the past.
The point I wanted to make about this fund, which is particularly interesting to me, is actually the fact that it was actually established in Labuan. Now that's a jurisdiction which isn't typically associated with funds, because if you look at the majority of funds which are launched, they tend to be in the various offshore jurisdictions, and Labuan itself is actually set up for this. Now, I actually, being Malaysian myself, I do feel that it's quite a good, quite an accomplishment to have something that's set up, because you have Singapore, right, and you have Hong Kong, and you have these jurisdictions which have a very strong financial industry, but typically, for example, in the offshore jurisdictions like Caymans, you tend to have more funds being set up, and then you tend to have the managers which are being set up, but they're typically in different jurisdictions. So a typical hedge fund would have, a fund that was set up in the Caymans and maybe a manager in Singapore or Hong Kong. And that's just because the regulations in both of these jurisdictions are different, and one lends itself better to having a fund vehicle, and one lends itself better to being an investment management company. Whereas Malaysia, I think, potentially has the ability to allow both things to happen, which I think is quite exciting personally for me.
Wonderful. Ian, I have to put you on the spot a little bit. It's always the insurance guys that are doing the underwriting that always get me. You're pulling back the layers and the layers, and just when you think you're there, there's one more layer. So, when you come through the other side of that insurance sign off, that's always wonderful, rewarding. But I can't imagine, frankly, what the process has been for something so differentiating and the first of its kind. So, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I think the first thing you got to ask is what do insurance companies do? Insurance companies do insure certain risks. In order for us to evaluate the risk, like in this instance, we had to work through CGCX and the fund's protocols, and we had to review each of their security aspects. So all those are very technical work that we needed to get ourselves satisfied that the fund has robust securities, that it has strengthened its OTP structures, that that when the Bitcoins are enters into the fund, it goes into the exchange. How robust is that structure, and whether is that hackable? So that's the work that we actually do first before wanting to even take on further in terms of underwriting a project like this. Like I've said, we have seen quite many exchanges coming to us, but if we cannot peel off those layers, we just can't do our due diligence. We can't look at the security protocols. We can't know who the promoters are. We'll be very uncomfortable to even want to insure and put our name behind that. So when we put our stamp down, we feel confident and we feel comfortable that, of course, there's a price for our security being charged. We want to likewise, investors who are putting in money, we also put ourselves in the same shoes as they have put themselves in, and we are doing that due diligence for them.
We talk about structuring. There's always so many different iterations, I gather, to get it right. And again, going back to first of its kind and innovation, could you share some of your thoughts?
Yes. Yes. On this subject of structuring, to begin with, first we have to look at the framework issued by the Labuan authorities on private equity fund. So we just need to make sure that there is full compliance in terms of the criteria. Secondly, the fund itself, because Labuan as a jurisdiction is more for doing what is called the out business. Not so much of Labuan as to go on the onshore and invoke Malaysian to participate or invest in these funds that are registered in Labuan, because to do so would trigger a violation of the Local Securities Act. So therefore, we have always been mindful to caution or advise our clients that the jurisdiction of the Labuan Fund is to address towards the external business. But of course, that does not prevent the Malaysian from engaging in understanding this kind of fund, and therefore they need to, if they want to invest, they need to do it outside of onshore. So that's why in the prospectus itself, the various regulatory requirement is quite clearly spelled out. So this is part of our input in terms of the structuring. Other than that, the rest of it is basically tailor-made towards each type of fund. And as what is said, that this is the first out of Labuan, such a Bitcoin fund. And of course, we are very happy to be part of this because, like I said to the regulator, we want to be a trailblazer. So we want to be able to innovate and bring about innovation and digitalization to show that Labuan as a financial center is one of the leading platforms.
We tend to forget the trials, tribulations, and the challenges of the journey to get there. So maybe you can share, what you had to break through when you become the first. What were some of those challenges?
When Vin brought up this idea to me, it so happened I had an opportunity to meet with the regulators, and I also then tossed the idea about this. And the regulatory framework is supportive on this kind of thing, because there is always the ambition to be a market leader. So therefore, there has been a lot of encouragement, except that the only caution statement is that just have to work within the guidelines. Yeah, so that's about it. But of course, notwithstanding the challenge of working within the guideline, it does not put us off in terms of idea and also being creative. So this is where the human nature of wanting to excel comes about.
For me, the challenges faced was only a little bit. Was to try to get the best people and put everyone together. And after that, my challenge is over. We got the best guys.
A great leader, bring in the best team possible to do all the work, right?
Right. So then my challenge is over. So we got the best people on the ground.
Thank you all for sharing your wisdom, your insights, and really this what I think will become an epic journey as a demonstration to innovation, regulation, market infrastructure, sustainability, all wrapped into one new process.
BGBF will be signing an MOU with Public Foundation. This is very special and monumental because this marks our philosophy and echoes our philosophy about community and societal impact and our contribution. Through this partnership, BGBF-I is committed to pledge part of its proceeds from the fund's performance returns to the Public Foundation. Through this partnership with Blockchain Commission and the Public Foundation Blockchain for Impact Giving Fund, the BCMG Genesis Bitcoin Fund-I aims to help manage collaborative, converging and develop technology solutions, engaging ecosystem leaders, and improve digital cooperation to advance the UN SDGs. So I welcome back Subu, our fund manager. I'll also like to introduce Sergio Fernandez, and also I would like to invite along with him Mr. Amir Dosal, President of the Global Partnerships Forum for this virtual MOU signing. I invite you to sign on the MOU. You have your copies, so this time around it's all your individual copies. Digital copies, I see. And may I invite you to flash your signed copies for a photo op as well? Thank you, Sergio. Sergio is Chairman of Public Foundation, President of Global Partnership Forum, Mr. Amir Dosa. Yeah.
I've done it. Thank you.
So I'm sharing the screen while I'm signing it. So I hope everyone can see that.
Innovation and MOU signing, cannot get other than this. The team of BGBF puts its heart into advocating positive societal impact, and this partnership really echoes our philosophy, and we are looking forward to the action plan of this commitment. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Thank you, Sergio.